Hey, CK here with another Automation Monday. Last week, I showed you my macro for doing bounce and replace of all the tracks in a Logic project. But this week, I'm going to show you the overall project archival macro that uses the one I showed you last week. So it's actually just one component of a larger process that I do when I finish a track. So you just watched the automation of it. Now let's take a look at the macro that makes that work. First thing we do is prompt the user, who's me, for preparing the project. It basically just gives me some reminders about what I should do before I go ahead and archive the project. Get rid of any unused tracks and so forth. And then also just make sure I'm in the main view, the tracks window. And then tells me when I'm ready to go ahead, click OK. It has a button labeled OK and a button labeled Cancel. And for either of those, you can check this box that if the user chooses that button, it'll actually stop the macro right there. So that's cool. I can just change my mind. You'll notice that here there's a place actually to add variables, but I don't do that in this one, but stay tuned. The next thing we do is say, hey, do we need to do a bounce and replace on this project, or have you already done that? So clearly, it's going to have to take two different paths depending what my answer is here. So this is going to make a checkbox appear that's labeled do it. And its default value is going to be 1 as opposed to 0. 1, it's going to be checked. 0, it's not going to be checked. And then there's going to be just a single confirmation button labeled confirm. So if I leave this checked, it gives this variable a value of 1, which is yes. And sure enough, right here, we say if do it is 1 or yes, then you're going to want to activate Logic if it's not activated already and execute the macro that I showed you last week for bounce and replace. Make sense? And then it just waits for that to be done. And the way that I tell if that macro is done is that we're back in this window called All Tracks Bounce and Replace, because that's what the macro names that window. Okay, groovy. So the next thing it does is just make sure that Logic is activated. Then it chooses the File Project Management Cleanup command. It waits until the Cleanup Options window comes up to the front and then clicks the OK button. Then I have an if statement here because this doesn't always happen, but there is a secondary window that comes up and has clean in the title. So if that window does come up, I just click the OK button because I'm okay with what it's going to do. I pause until we are back in the main window, which always has dash space tracks in its title. And I wait till the save command is enabled and I choose it. And finally, we do Consolidate, which is another project management option that Logic offers. I choose it from the menu. I click OK when it becomes enabled to confirm it. And once again, I wait until we're back in the main tracks window and save is enabled. I choose save. And then I wait once again until we're back in the main window. And then I close the project. And that's it. So this is a much faster walkthrough, but it builds on a whole lot of the things that we looked at in last week's video. So I hope this is helpful to you. My whole point in doing this is to try to show creative professionals who do not think of themselves as programmers that there's a whole lot possible for them without coding in terms of automating their workflows. Okay? Don't hesitate to put questions in the comments. All right. Cheers.